Reefing sails is very, very important, and above all, remember when you reef, it's simply about safety. A bigger sail isn't always faster, better or greater. As skipper, you're responsible for yourselves, the boat and the crew, so it's advisable to reef in good time. If you're even thinking about it, it's probably already too late. You should have reefed. A good indication of this is when we're heeling too much, experiencing too much rudder pressure, or when the sail can no longer be trimmed, when the mainsail is constantly flapping and we're shooting up into the wind. These are all clear indications that we really ought to consider reefing. Or, for example, if we observe or already know that a weather front is approaching, it's always better to proactively reef beforehand. Now, we're going to demonstrate exactly how we go about reefing. When reefing the headsail, it's also highly advisable, just as it is when you're furling the headsail. If we have the time and if we have the room to spare, we'll just quickly bear away for a moment. Take the pressure off the headsail, roll it in a bit, ideally as far as the reefing marks most sails have for a reefing genoa. To such a reefing mark, or in this case, we now have a fat pearl jib. There we have a batten, so it's naturally recommended to roll the sail in up to the batten, then reef the mainsail. In this particular case, we have a furling mainsail. We'll also make sure that the wind is coming from starboard later, so the furling works properly. Our mast, as you know, has already been prepared. Once we've departed, we've already set the stopper to the ratchet setting. This means we'll be able to furl the sail without any issues later. Here, it's recommended at the very beginning, right at the start, when we ease the line, specifically the reefing line or the furling outhole line, to first furl it in quite without any tension, without any counter tension for the initial 3, 4 or even 5 turns, and only then to apply that counter tension using the outhole line. This ensures that the sail furls in nicely and completely wrinkle-free right from the start. As for our course, we are currently sailing high into the wind. This works perfectly. As I said, having the wind from starboard is important for it to work optimally and smoothly. The wind from starboard is important because we want to roll it up counterclockwise, exactly in the intended direction. If we have wind from port and then roll it up counterclockwise again, we would pull the sail over the outer edge of the mast, which is something we definitely want to avoid. And we try to avoid this in order to protect the material, but also to prevent any unnecessary friction, especially with the furling mainsail. When we reef the sail later, it is very important that we loosen the backstay again so that the mast stands straight. It's quite possible that we were underway, the wind was picking up more and more. We pulled on the backstay to take pressure off the sail and perhaps avoid having to reef. Important, before we reef, we first release the backstay again so that the mast stands straight and the furling works well. And now we'll show you how we do it when we reef a sail like this. That means we'll first tack Jakob. No, not good. We've just completed the tack, so the wind is now coming from starboard. This is to allow for a better furling or reefing the mainsail. What I'm particularly noticing right now in this specific situation is that the main halyard has stretched a bit. I'd love to see it. It seems the main halyard has probably slipped down here. This can become a problem when furling because it then gets caught on the outer edge right here. This situation should also be prepared for. We can prevent a main halyard from slipping like this by purchasing a high quality Dyneema halyard with at least an SK78 core. Now you can go to reef. So here we have the outhole control line, which of course will be eased out later on. And then right next to it, we also have the roller furling line. It doesn't quite fit perfectly in this particular situation. It would be much nicer if, for instance, the furling line were positioned on the starboard side and the outhole line on the port side. That way, we could operate both lines conveniently from the winch. However, in this specific scenario, a good alternative is to simply take a winch handle up to the bow and perform the furling operation directly at the mast, just as we are doing right now. So, Max, would you please ease the outhole then? First, we'll prepare our main sheet. We'll take the windward sheet now and open it a bit more just to relieve the pressure. Ready, Max. We're going to roll in the sail right here at the front. You can hear the clicking mechanism. We're in the ratchet now. The other side is now locked. We always look up to make sure the batten rolls in perfectly parallel. A little less counter pull, please. We'll still make sure that we roll in parallel. Okay, we have now successfully reefed the sail down to the first batten. This is exactly how the sail should look. It stands beautifully smooth and wrinkle-free. Even now, we can tighten the backstay again if we want to relieve more pressure in the reefed condition. This is no problem at all. But for the actual reefing or furling, make sure to loosen the backstay so the mast can remain perfectly straight.
For me personally, at the helm right now, it's naturally much simpler with a reefed mainsail because the vessel is significantly less prone to weather helm, especially on a day just like today when the winds are quite gusty and highly unstable and one really needs to be extremely vigilant when steering. A reefed mainsail is simply a little bit more forgiving and it makes the experience much more relaxed and genuinely more enjoyable to steer.
We are reefing the foresail now because we still have too much pressure. When it comes to reefing the headsail, the question always is, should we reef it now to sail for just a few more minutes to get into the harbor, or do we keep sailing for the next 5 hours or the next 3 days ahead? If we intend to sail for an extended period, we would definitely recommend reefing the sail very thoroughly, ensuring it rolls in neatly and securely. This means, just as with standard furling, we will bear away once more, take all the pressure out of the sail, head further downwind, make certain the sail completely disappears behind its protective cover, and then we can commence the actual furling process. Genoas or head sails usually have reefing marks. These reefing marks are there to give us a reference point. For example, if I have 20 knots of wind, I need to go to reef 1 or the first mark, second mark, third mark. And on the other hand, you can place marks on the outhaul so that you always know exactly where to position it. For example, for the first reef, you move the outhaul forward to mark 1. This way, you can make sure the sail sets properly in its reefed state, that the shape remains efficient, and that the leech is not too open and doesn't start to flutter excessively. We're going to bear away now to take the pressure off the head sail. Are you ready to bear away? Ready? We're now going to begin reefing the sail. I'll apply very little counter tension at the beginning, and only towards the end of the mark will I apply a little more counter tension. It's important that the cleat must be closed. We have rolled the sail in all the way up to the mark. By using the marking, specifically the reefing mark that we have, we were able to set our fairlid immediately so that the fairlid is now perfectly positioned once more, even in the reefed condition. By bearing away and easing the pressure on the sail, we were able to smoothly furl the jib, ensuring it now looks perfect even when reefed, standing beautifully and without any wrinkles.